Hi there, I'm Debbie.
And I'm Nick.
What we thought we'd talk to you about today is keeping up with the times. I qualified, goodness me, 14 years ago as a massage therapist and aromatherapist. And in those days, if you wanted to get noticed, you had to have an advert in the Yellow Pages. And that was when Yellow Pages were this thick. And you weren't anybody if you didn't have a presence in Yellow Pages. So people thought you were credible if that's where you were. Sometime later things evolved and I took the plunge and had a website. And since then it's become the norm for people to have a website. So the primary search of choice, if you like, for people when they're looking for any kind of therapist or tradesperson is to kind of Google it. And so if you haven't got a website, then that affects your credibility. And it surprises me how many established therapists who've been around a long, long time still don't have a website, and that's really, really surprising. And of course things have moved on again, so not only do you have to have a website, the latest thing is to have a presence on social media. So really what we're talking about today is keeping up with the times.
And I trained 7 years ago as a hypnotherapist, went straight in as a hypnotherapist, and even that time difference between Debbie training in her original therapy and me coming on board, having a website was the norm. And so I went straight in with a website. But what's interesting now is you can go to that website through different means. And not only, I'm not talking just about typing in your website address, but the way you view that website. So I was really interested the other day, or almost shocked, when I went onto Google Analytics. Google it because it's free, it's good, which tells me where my visitors come from, to see that 50% of my visitors were coming from some sort of thing like a tablet or an iPhone rather than a computer. And so therefore your website looks different depending on how those people are, what sort of medium those people are viewing that website. So this is where it's important to check now how your website looks on these different things. Debbie and I just tweeted this morning, could people go on to our Therapist Marketing Solutions website and check how it was looking, because our senses, maybe it's not reproducing quite as well on those tablets, and so we're asking for feedback. So this is the easy way of checking. Just go to your friends, relatives, colleagues, or people on your social media and say, could you have a quick look? And if it's not reproducing as you think it should, can you let me know how you're viewing it? And then take that information and either adjust your software if you need to. So for instance, Debbie and I currently have our existing hypnotherapy websites with Moonfruit. They've brought out a more modern version, so you can upgrade so that it's viewable on things like iPhone. Or you need to go back to your website designer.
And I can actually sense the kind of the fear in some therapists' eyes, because this is quite technical stuff. But if you think about it, back in the day, before websites ever came along, everything was done by printed material. So you either had an ad in the paper or leaflets coming through the door and so on. And even then, you would have had to have had a certain knowledge about the print process, about getting artwork together, copy, and so on and so on. So you would have had to learn some technical jargon and have some technical knowledge even then. All that's happened is, it's different technology, it's different vocabulary. And in the same way that once upon a time you didn't know how to massage, you didn't know how to do psychotherapy, whatever it might be, and you had to learn, this is something you can learn too. If you don't know where to start, obviously you go online and you Google it and so on, but you can also find people who are knowledgeable in themselves, so you don't have to know all the knowledge, you just need to know what it is needs to be done. And you can find an expert or a local TAME student perhaps who might be able to help you. I was talking with a friend the other day whose son goes to an after-school computer club, and the teacher knows that this lad is very, very knowledgeable about IT issues. So if any of the pupils that are there have any IT problems, she refers them to my friend's son. He's 6-year-old. So just find your nearest 6-year-old and you'll be fine.
Oh, I love that one. That's really good. But the interesting thing is you only need to learn it once. And there's a good metaphor here that I learnt when I was trained to be a hypnotherapist actually, and I use frequently with my clients. And it's the story of a chap walking past his neighbour's front garden, and his neighbour's lawnmower has broken. So the neighbour is sat there cross-legged pulling all this lawnmower apart. And the chap walking past says, "Oh, I wish I could do that." And the neighbour says, "You can if you spent the time and had the patience," which is so true. And so therefore, with all of these things, whether it's getting your mind around some new software, even though you're more inclined to be more the creative side or a therapy type thing, it's just then recognising you need to put a little bit of time aside and be patient with yourself, because you only need to learn it once and then it's there. Or just working out where you can get this information from. And this is where we come to the values of Google and YouTube, because in actual fact all the answers are there in some form or another. You've just got to find them. So it's be patient with yourself, or as Debbie says, find the right person once you know what you have to do. Talking about Google and YouTube, this is where something else has moved on, because in old days you used to, well not old days, but just a few years ago, you used to send people to your website via your website address, which would be on your leaflets, etc., or via Google. But now this has opened up hugely, and even Google themselves are paying much more attention to the people that are visiting your website from social media. So again, it's all very well saying, well, I don't like Facebook, or I don't understand it. Neither did Debbie or I, but we've put some time aside because we didn't like being employed sometimes, some aspects where our boss would come in and say, "We need you to do this." We had no choice. But even when you're self-employed, there are some jobs, like my accounts, that I'm not warming to and I don't like doing, but we have to apply ourselves, because the benefit at the end of the day, you have to look at what the benefit is to you, and that is you get new clients in, who not only pay you, but you can then fix them, help them, make them feel better, or whatever it is you do, and therefore there is a reward in that aspect. So the new areas that are developed for getting people to your website are things like, funny enough, YouTube itself is one of the biggest search engines now behind Google. So Debbie and I put this camera on this tripod, we did a little test to make sure we sat in the right place and that you could see us, and then we pushed the record button. So therefore, we had to do a trial and error when we first started doing these videos, and now it's second nature to us. We had to go through that learning process. But if you can just put a camera onto a tripod and sit there, or get somebody else to do it for you, then you are potentially going to gain a lot of clients by explaining what it is you do.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. And what you said earlier about being gentle with yourself and giving yourself some space to learn is really important, because we learn new things by actually doing.
Yes.
And we also learn by repetition.
Yeah.
So if all of this is sounding new to you, if you go onto Google and kind of look these things up, you'll find it in all different areas and so on. So we learn by repetition, by reading it here, by reading it there, by hearing someone talk about it, by going onto our website and seeing this video over again, so that you can get familiar with what we're talking about. And with familiarity, with repetition, that's the way you can learn.
Yeah.
And actually do it.
Absolutely. One of my supervisees, she got a friend to do a video of her, and she got it loaded onto her website. And to start off with, she was very happy with it, and you know, it was perfectly acceptable, and it got across what she did. But there were a few things she didn't like about it, and then with a bit of time evolving, she realised she really wanted to do an updated one. So I sort of volunteered. Well, I said, you know, next supervision, I'll sit there with the camera and we'll do a new video. Now this is where she took the plunge and she started, she'd done something, right? It may not be perfect, it doesn't matter, because think about this, if it's perfect, fine, but if it's not, it shows you're human, and there is nothing more important than coming across as a human being when it comes to the Therapeutic Alliance. It's so important. Another area that's a brand new one is, well not brand new, but it's rising now, is Pinterest. And last year I got a bit interested in this. Similar to Facebook in as much as it's much more visual than some of the other social media, and it can be quite good fun because you can just browse almost other people's photograph albums, which can be quite interesting. But you know, there's a search bar in there, and you can say search on therapy or counselling or physiotherapy, whatever, your therapy, and come up with other people's pictures, which you can just repin, just click a pin button, and it will go onto your site within Pinterest. So therefore you can start to bring about your own photo album of different areas, and there's different chapters, so to speak. So you could have one on your holidays, one on your therapy, one on your, I don't know, dog, cat, whatever. But the interesting thing is you can link it through to other websites. So you can actually link a photograph of somebody, say, having a hot stones massage through to your massage website. This is a really good way of getting visitors to your website. It can be a bit addictive, so set the stopwatch, because it is just really interesting. But again, when you first go onto it, I remember the first time I signed up, I was like, well, what do I do? YouTube it. Because go back to YouTube, you can pause a YouTube video at any time, so you can literally refer to the video on YouTube, how to set up a Pinterest account, and then go and be doing it in another tab, and just gradually click backwards and forwards, and it will talk you through it. There is no excuse these days for not doing something if you have the time and the patience, and if you want more clients.
Absolutely. So there's lots of ideas here, lots of things for you to think about. As we always say, just take one idea, work with it, and get familiar with it, consolidate it, and then view this video again and decide to take a different area to learn, to move your business forward, to move your technology forward, to be current in the current times with the way people are interacting now and where people are looking to find therapists. Keep yourself up to date, fresh, revitalised, and you'll reap the rewards.
Absolutely. And then just to finish, I smiled when I was saying this to a client the other day. The word procrastination has been in the English dictionary since the 16th century, so that's how long people procrastinate on something they either don't understand or don't want to do. But one thing that has stayed current all the way through this, and will continue to, is word of mouth. So just finally, as we finish off, it's to remind you that your cheapest way of marketing is through your existing client bank. So poor Debs woke up with a headache this morning. I wouldn't have known unless she told me, because she came down a normal cheery self. And I know full well that if she'd been off to see clients this morning, they wouldn't have known either. And it's that therapeutic alliance is so massively important. So always be professional. Even if you're over the tomatoes in Tesco's, I would say you need to be keeping that client face, you know, there, if at all possible. We're not saints, but, you know. So that word of mouth is the one thing that, although everything else evolves, that stays the same. We hope you found this of interest. We'll see you soon.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.